Okay, it's recording. Okay, let me move this a little bit. Hi, folks, Joko here, and we have a task 2 and I'm using the Zoom feature, using a PowerPoint as a background. Oh, it doesn't like the little sides of my hat. Why the hat? Why the cowboy hat? Well, I bought this today here in Mandalay because I've been doing a lot of country music, and I'd like to have costumes when I do my songs, and so it's for singing in your company shirt and all that, and a cowboy hat, providing a service. What do we got tonight? Well, let me get myself out of the way a little bit here. And can we have the next slide, please? And okay, play. Slide number 2. Ooh, it didn't do the transition. Oh, that's why I put the curtain there in the first place, because it did a neat little... Okay, continuing. All right, so last minute tips for, who? For Wafa. All right. I think your test is tomorrow, and you shouldn't be studying on the night before your test. This is a general training, okay? A general training question. In many countries, paying for things using mobile phone, cell phone apps is becoming increasingly common. Does this development have more advantages or disadvantages? Okay, we know it's a general training question because it says more as opposed to outweigh. Now, what you really need to analyze every question, even general training questions, which are simpler. But anyway, who are we talking about? Where, when, what are we talking about? What is the item, the thing that we're being asked to consider the advantages and disadvantages of? Paying for things using mobile phones. All right, so here's a mobile phone, and I happen to have on here a variety of different mobile apps. I have 2 of them anyway, that allow me to buy things and sell things. Yeah, I can sell things. Transfer money between friends, giving money to charities, paying your bills. They have a lot of functions. In every country they're different, so whatever country you're in. Here in Myanmar, the big ones would include like Wave Money, and then the individual banks have their own. And that's what they're talking about in this question. Mobile apps for paying for things or services. Okay, mobile app wants me to do something. Okay, that's what we're talking about. All right. Now, this was not in your post. Provide reasons for your answers and include any relevant examples from your own knowledge or experience. This sentence, this paragraph, is in every task 2. I assume for general training as well. So what I'll do is, with an advantages and disadvantages essay, you need to break it down and do some brainstorming. Okay, make 2 little columns, plus, minus, advantages, disadvantages, and just put some ideas down. I came up with a few, and then let's see if they match what our writer is presenting. Advantages: safer from crime. Sure, you're not carrying cash around. It leaves a record of your purchase, so if you're having a receipt automatically with everything you buy. And it's based on your phone number. Here in comparison to things like credit cards, which people can know your phone number, and that's no problem. But it's easy to remember and easy to do things with. Disadvantages: there's this thing called the digital divide. It's another cost. Like, when you transfer money on this, the service takes, a certain, like 0.5% or something. And it can be complicated. I've tried to transfer money, people much younger than me who should be technologically savvy and had problems and could not, or if they didn't have their ID, if they don't have this app, if they don't have their smartphone, it gets complicated. But that's just my ideas. Now, you can't have 3 ideas per paragraph. Or at least don't try. It's a bad idea to have 3, because you're not going to be able to fully develop and support each one of them. However, you need to have at least 2. So one of these has got to go. Which one? Whoops, what happened there? Okay, yeah, here we go. It leaves a record. Well, I don't need to. I'm going to go with these 2 as advantages, and this is hard to explain, so we'll go with that. So you got 2 advantages, 2 disadvantages, Good approach, or at least so far. Let's take a look at the essay. Okay, here's the question again. The introduction. The trend of paying for products using apps on smartphones has risen in popularity in many countries. In my opinion, this development brings more benefits than any other drawback. Now, in the question, it says, is becoming. Now, tenses are used for reasons. They describe a certain aspect of reality of what we're talking about. When we use the present continuous, we're talking about something that is continuing, that is happening now, that is temporary perhaps, but is in no way finished whatsoever. It's just still a changing situation. Now you've used the present perfect, which grammatically is correct, but is not descriptive of the situation that we're presented with. And it's done. It's finished. It has risen in popularity in many countries. Okay? You should stay with the continuous tense if it presents a continuous tense. In my opinion, this development brings more benefits than any other drawback. It's confusing. I don't know what to define. It has more benefits than disadvantages. Just go with that. Before we can have, in many countries. Before we can have other, before we can use an other, here, any other, we need to have a something. You have to have a something before you can have an other. Hope that makes sense. Get out of the way. Move it. Okay, yeah. All right, cool. I can block my comments too. All right, so what do we got here? One of the major problems of this shift. Is it a shift? They won't talk about anything else moving. What shift? Is that private data may become more vulnerable to theft. Okay. Is that a topic sentence for the paragraph? This is because the process of paying online requires customers store their financial information electronically, which means that any hacker can steal it by infiltrating the app. Well, now who is storing the info? Is it the payment? Your bank is storing your info. The app is storing your info. You're not storing it. Who stores it? All right, the process of paying online. I'm suspecting something here. Yes, we find here. Another negative aspect is that this development might encourage overspending. What? Most online selling apps are designed in a persuasive way. I have some of those as well, particularly the cloth selling apps. Yes? Are you on, what's it called? But yeah, they do. But that's not what we're talking about. We're not talking about the apps for retailers. We're talking about things like Wave Money and KBZ Pay and Aya Bank Pay and these ways that are accepted many, many, many places in real life. This is not about shopping online, unfortunately. So this whole second point, cloth selling, clothing selling, for example, present shoppers with an unending stream of suggestions, eliciting a desire to explore more options and leading to more expenditure. Not a good use of expenditure. Now, this is certainly not a disadvantage from the retailer's point of view. They like this, but again, it's not what the subject, the topic of the essay is. That's a big, big problem. Okay, now, when you go from the body paragraph 1 to body paragraph 2 in advantages and disadvantages essay, this cowboy hat makes me want to change the way I talk. It gives you an opportunity to make some big coherence and cohesion points by connecting the two paragraphs in a natural but cohesive way. Okay? Despite these drawbacks would be one way to do it. Okay, or although the safety can be, the safety of the app can be a downside, it's also an advantage. Here's why. You connect the two. In spite of these disadvantages, here's the advantages. Okay, that creates an opportunity, and you just blew it. We didn't blow it, but you didn't take full advantage of it by simply using however. However, paying through apps is advantageous for both individuals and societies. Okay. All right. So once again, you've misunderstood the meaning of the question, which is going to hurt your task response. But look at this. You got no grammar mistakes anywhere in here. You got a bunch of complex sentences. That's great. As for communities, now, after reading this, what you wanted to use, the word you meant to use was economies. Economies. And why hedge at this point? Why hedge? Why are you saying it might? It will. Could even. But might, particularly twice in a row like that, really seems very weak. Might motivate competition between sellers on how to cultivate more customers. I suppose you can use that. As a result, there will be more supply and demand. No, there will be more demand. And not necessarily more supply. This has nothing to do with supply. Supply is another aspect of the economy entirely. If continued, it might, just might, and the concomitant improvements in other services. Now, there's a $5 word. Okay, right, used correctly. In conclusion, I believe that the benefits of cheaper prices and facilitating future economic development outweigh the disadvantage of less security, which results from paying using phone applications. As opposed to what? Cash? That's safer? I'm going to rob you. Okay, now it's a simple, direct conclusion, but what happened to the overspending thing? That was like half your point in body paragraph 1, and it lost its way. Oh, you couldn't afford it. That was it. Or maybe you ran out of time. I don't know. But this is going to suffer because, again, you... See, that's the thing, is that you might be confronted with questions about things that in your world you've never run into before. I don't know where you're from, but maybe in your country you don't have these apps. They weren't here in Myanmar until a couple years ago, when suddenly they just appeared and were everywhere, and everyone has one. See, so many people have bank accounts that these are an alternative to bank accounts, that everyone's got one of these, you know. They have this, don't have a bank account. I hear gunshots outside right now. Gunshots are going on because we're in the middle of a coup. And I'm going to turn off my lights. So, oh God, gunshots.